History of the United States Coast Guard. The history of the United States Coast Guard goes back to the United States Revenue Cutter Service, which was founded on 4 August 1790 as part of the Department of the Treasury. The Revenue Cutter Service and the United States Life-Saving Service were merged to become the Coast Guard per 14 U.S.C. subsection 1, which states the Coast Guard, as established January 28, 1915, shall be a military service and a branch of the armed forces of the United States at all times. In 1939, the United States Lighthouse Service was merged into the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard itself was moved to the Department of Transportation in 1967. And on 1 March 2003, it became part of the Department of Homeland Security. However, under 14 U.S.C. subsection 3, as amended by Section 211 of the Coast Guard and Maritime Transportation Act of 2006, upon the declaration of war, and when Congress so directs in the declaration, or when the President directs, the Coast Guard operates as a service in the Department of the Navy. In the 2000s, transferred to the Department of the Homeland Security, the Coast Guard was transferred from the Department of Transportation to the Department of Homeland Security on 1st March 2003 under the Homeland Security Act, Public Law number 107-296. In 2002, the Coast Guard sent several 110-foot cutters to the Persian Gulf to enforce the UN embargo on goods to and from Iraq. Port security units and naval coastal warfare units also accompanied the U.S. military buildup. War in Iraq and Afghanistan. During Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, the Coast Guard had deployed its largest contingent of Coast Guardsmen and assets overseas since the Vietnam War. Coast Guard cutters primarily assisted in force protection and search and seizures of suspected smugglers in Iraqi and international waters, often in close proximity to Iran. Military trainers improved the capabilities of the Iraqi Navy and other government forces in core competencies in maritime law enforcement. The Coast Guard also sent military advisors to Iraq to provide technical assistance to Iraqi officials on the implementation of international port security standards and requirements. The USCGC Walnut conducted an assessment of Iraq's river and coastal navigation aids, such as buoys, and then replaced or corrected the aids in order to allow for safe navigation of the Khor Abd Allah River following up to the port of Qasr from military, humanitarian, and commercial vessels. The Coast Guard sent redeployment assets and inspection detachments, RAID teams to both Iraq and Afghanistan. The teams assisted the units of other services with the proper declaration, classification, labeling, and packaging of container shipments, as well as the inspection of containers for structural integrity to ensure each one is seaworthy to cut down on potential shipping problems. In addition, the Coast Guard provided multiple men and women as a part of intelligence and cyber detachments across Afghanistan. On 24 April 2004, Petty Officer 3rd Class Nathan B. Buchenthal, 24, from the USS Firebolt, became the Fire Coast Guardman to die in a combat zone since the Vietnam War. He was killed in a suicide boat attack on a Basra oil terminal off the coast of Iraq as the crew of the Firebolt performed their maritime security mission. As the height its involvement in both wars, the Coast Guard deployed over 1,200 men and women, including about 500 reservists, 11 ships, 2 large cutters, a buoy tender, and 8 patrol boats, 4 port security units, law enforcement detachments, and other specialized teams and support staff in order to perform a wide range of operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait, and the Persian Gulf. Coast Guard units and personnel, both active and reserve components, continue to deploy to the Middle East region even after the end of the Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation New Dawn. The Coast Guard is charged with providing harbor defense and security to ports, seaward approaches, and waterways within U.S. Central Command's area of responsibility and ensure the free flow of personnel, equipment, and commerce in the region. Hurricane Katrina. After Hurricane Katrina in August 2005, the Coast Guard dispatched a number of helicopters, fixed-wing aircraft, small boats, and auxiliary aircraft, as well as 25 cutters to the Gulf Coast, rescuing 2,000 people in 2 days, and around 33,500 people in all. The crew also assessed storm damage to offshore oil platforms and refineries. More than 2,400 personnel from all districts conducted search and rescue response, waterway reconstitution, and environmental impact assessment operations. In total, the Coast Guard air and boat rescued more than 33,500 people and assisted with the joint agency evacuation of an additional 9,400 patients and medical personnel from hospitals in the Gulf Coast region. In May 2006, at the change of command ceremony when Admiral Thad Allen took over as Commandant, President George W. Bush awarded the entire Coast Guard, including Coast Guard Auxiliary, the Presidential Unit Citation for its efforts after Hurricane Katrina. HC-130 number 1705 crash. On 29 October 2009, Coast Guard HC-130 aircraft number 1705 with 7 crew members based in the Coast Guard Air Station, Sacramento, collided with United States Marine Corps AH-1 Cobra helicopter with 2 crew members 15 miles east of San Clemente Island. Both aircraft crashed into the ocean, and all 9 crew members in both aircraft are believed to have perished. The C-130 was searching for a missing boater while the USMC aircraft was heading towards a military training area in company with another Cobra and 2 CH-53 Sea Stallions from Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. An investigation found no one directly responsible for the crash.